Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, my 5 album disappointments from 2022. I already made a video of my favorite albums from 2022, my top 10 from 2022. I'll link that in the description down below. But these are 5 albums that I was anticipating them. I was expecting myself to like them, was excited about them, was looking forward to these albums. And for one reason or another, they kind of let me down. And it isn't that I, really dislike these records. They were just kind of disappointments for me. They obviously didn't make it into my end of the year top 10. And so I thought I would just take some time to mention these. All right. Number 5 for me, maybe this is a little unfair including this, but it was the band The Last in Line and the EP that they put out, A Day in the Life. I say maybe it's unfair because it was an EP. But this is a group that I really, really like. They're supposed to be putting out a new album in 2023. I'm really looking forward to that. And it's been a few years since their last album, and I was really expecting, okay, this EP, it's going to be something that's going to hold me over till the new album comes out. It's going to get me excited about the new album. And this didn't do that for me. I really don't like the song that they picked to cover. I'm a huge Beatles fan. I think the song A Day in the Life is a great song, but it just totally unexciting for me. Not a song that I want to hear them cover. I think they did a good job on it, but it's not something that I want to listen to repeatedly. There were some live cuts on it, which were kind of cool, but they also, they just didn't excite me for some reason, and that was a disappointment in itself. Maybe it was the recording quality. I don't know. So, all right, number 5 for me was Last in Line. Number 4 for me, these are in no particular order. I'm going to go with number 4. I'm going to say Megadeth, The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. Now, I got to be honest, the last, so many Megadeth albums, I always find myself kind of really liking 3 songs, maybe 2 to 4 songs on the record. But I just can't I just can't listen to entire Megadeth albums anymore for some reason. And this album was the same thing. And I really like the hype build up for this record, like the videos that they were putting out and the way they were hyping the record. So I was kind of excited about it. And I was kind of thinking all right, I'm going to really listen to this. I'm really going to give this a try. And it just did nothing for me. I really don't care for Dave's vocals anymore. I have trouble getting past that. I didn't like the mix of the record. It's very bright. There's little to no bass frequency. So it's kind of difficult to listen to, and it just feels really, maybe I'm just not in the right headspace. And that's something that I'll say about a lot of these albums on this list. Sometimes there's records that don't hit me when I first get them, but then somewhere down the line, I do really get into them. And maybe that's the case with this, but I don't know. I don't think so. There's just too much, songs kind of sound the same, that kind of Megadeth style fast thrash riffs. It just didn't excite me, and I've just found this album to be a real disappointment. And this is the reason why some of these records I didn't do reviews of them, because I tend to not like to do reviews of albums that I didn't like. And this was one of them, and I tried to listen to it a bunch of times. I even talked to a friend who's really into Megadeth and was going to have him on the channel, because he's more of a Megadeth fan than I am. And I thought maybe it's just because I just don't like, some of the most recent Megadeth stuff. But that one was a disappointment for me. Okay, this one was a surprise for me. I really thought I was going to like this record. A lot of people online really like this album, but Queensryche's Digital Noise Alliance, I even saw this, land up at number 1 on some people's end of the year lists. And I understand that, because it has a classic Queensryche sound to it. It's recorded very well. It's performed very well. But for me, where it comes up short is just in the songs. I just found myself, the songs just weren't catchy enough for me, or it didn't make me want to come back to it and listen to it again. And I did give this one a chance. I listened to it maybe 3 or 4 times. And it's one of those, I mentioned this in my top 10 album and in other videos talking about new releases, where I made a playlist in Apple Music of new albums and I put them in this list, and as time would go on, I'd knock certain albums out, keep other albums in until I got to the end of the year and I knocked it down to 10. And this was an album that I just sort of forgot about. Like, I listened to it a couple times and then I just never came back to it. And then I did come back to it and I tried to listen to it again. I thought, okay, I've been away from it for a little. Let me listen to it again. And it just didn't really grab me. And it's really strange because there's some cool riffs. Again, great singing, great playing. The production is really good. It's got an old school feel to it, but it just didn't grab me for some reason, and I really don't know why. This is one that maybe I will come back to it, and maybe it will click with me at some point. Okay, next, Michael Schenker Group, Universal. This was one that really surprised me because I love Michael Schenker. I love where Michael Schenker's been the last so many years. I think he's been putting out some really great stuff. I think it's confusing the way he flips between this like Michael Schenker Fest, Temple of Rock, Michael Schenker Group. It's really confusing. And there's great guitar playing on the record. I mean, I expect nothing less from Schenker. He's such a great player. So I did enjoy his playing on here, and there are some cool songs on it, but in general, it felt a little cookie cutter or something. It just didn't sort of take it to that next level where I wanted to listen to it repeatedly. I just found the songs to be good but not great. There wasn't really much that just really grabbed me and made me really want to come back to it. I mean, like the Temple of Rock stuff I really liked, but this just kind of it was just I don't know. I just thought it was okay, and it just felt a little stale, a little cookie cutter for me. But again, there's great playing on it and great musicianship. So, okay, this one was. Let me see. Am I at my end here? I did. Last in Line was number 5 for me. Number 4 was Megadeth. Number 3 was Queensryche. Number 2 was Michael Schenker. And this one probably was the biggest disappointment for me because I was really excited about this record. Joe Lynn Turner, Belly of the Beast. It's really strange. This album seemed to come out and it seems like it wasn't promoted at all. I saw very little. Like usually when an artist puts out an album, you see a bunch of things on Blabbermouth. They're being interviewed by a bunch of people. You see people talking about it online, talking about it on social media. The artists will be doing interviews and things like that. This album just like came out and I was completely like unaware of it. And I love Joe Lynn Turner. I've done videos in defense of the Joe Lynn Turner era of Rainbow. He's one of my favorite singers. And he kind of has a new look now, and I think and I love his new look. I think he looks, it makes him look, more intense, more metal. And I was expecting this album when I first kind of started listening to it. It is a really heavy record, and I was thinking like, oh wow, this is really cool. He's doing something really heavy, and I just couldn't get into it. A big part of it was the mix for me. It's very fatiguing. It's very, you hear me talk about the loudness wars. It's very dynamically crushed and very fatiguing on the ears. So it's kind of hard at times to pick out the riffs and stuff like that. And I mean, Joe sounds great. His vocals sound great. And I do like the heaviness of it, but it just didn't grab me. It didn't make me want to come back. And that's kind of a theme with all of these that I picked here is that none of them were terrible records. Probably my least favorite out of this is probably the Megadeth. Probably my most favorite was maybe the Michael Schenker or the Queensryche. But the Joe Lynn Turner one, again, it just didn't it didn't inspire me to want to keep coming back and listening to it. It's one that I feel like out of all 5 of these, this one feels like one that I could come back to at some point and it could really click for me. But at the moment, it just didn't click for me. I couldn't really listen past 3 or 4 songs, and then I just sort of started jumping around because, again, it was so fatiguing on my ears, which is such a shame. I think the album could have could have sounded so much better if they had left some more of the dynamics intact. So, all right, there you go. Those are my 5 album disappointments for 2022. Again, not that I hate these records, but that they just, I was anticipating really liking them, and I landed up not really liking them. So they were just disappointments. So let me know what some of your album disappointments were for 2022. Albums you were really looking forward to, but just kind of let you down in one way or another. Okay, let me know in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.